According to the UN, hundreds of Palestinians have been shot and killed by Israel Defense Forces and foreign military contractors at or near GHF aid sites. We spoke to a new eyewitness who concurs. He told us it's not only the IDF shooting, but also personnel hired through American subcontractors to secure GHF sites.
Forced to run for sustenance and survival, both at once, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution sites have been described as death traps, a theater of cruelty, a murderous system. Now Doctors Without Borders is providing frontline testimony from medics.
Almost 1,000 starving Palestinians have been killed near so-called aid sites the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has set up. These murders and war crimes were committed by the Israeli military, as well as contractors working for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. In order to understand these horrors more in depth, we need some context. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which will be referred to as the GHF in this video, is a nonprofit backed by the American and Israeli governments. It was established in February of 2025 and began operations in May of 2025 with the intention of bypassing traditional aid routes due to the claims that Hamas was diverting aid away from those who needed it, a claim that has been denied and lacks any substantial evidence.
They say, of course, the Israelis, that they are doing it this way, when the Americans say they're doing it this way, because Hamas takes all the aid from the UN. As someone who's been there several times over the last year and a half, what's been your experience in terms of aid being diverted away from people who need it, UN aid?
It's a very, very frustrating statement we hear time and again. In the most simple sense, Mehdi, it's show us the evidence. That's it. Show us the evidence, which has not been done.
The current director of the GHF is Johnny Moore Jr., an evangelical Christian Zionist. A vocal and noted Trump supporter, his politics can be described as conservative, and he's an avid supporter of Israel. He also works with the ADL, an organization that has been a dedicated supporter of Israel, and has vocally and consistently promoted problematic ideologies like the conflation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. A quick reminder in that regard, anti-Zionism is not the same as anti-Semitism. Zionism is an ethno-cultural, nationalist political movement that the state of Israel uses to commit genocide and other crimes against humanity against Palestinians while colonizing Palestine. Anti-Semitism is hating someone because they're Jewish. Many Zionists are not Jewish, with the director of the GHF serving as a clear example, and there are many Jews who are not Zionist. Implying that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism implies that being Jewish automatically makes you a Zionist, which is pretty racist. Jewish Voices for Peace has a pretty great article on this that you should check out. The link will be in the pinned comment. So with that very important distinction made, let's get back to the GHF. The GHF has had massive issues with their so-called aid sites and is under intense scrutiny for how they distribute their aid. According to an emergency coordinator with Doctors Without Borders, quote, "If people arrive early and approach the checkpoints, they get shot. If they arrive on time, but there's an overflow and they jump over the mounds and the wires, they get shot. If they arrive late, they shouldn't be there because it is an evacuated zone, so they get shot." The Israeli military continually murders starving Palestinians that show up to these sites in order to get food.
More than 170 non-governmental organizations operating in Gaza have called for the immediate end of the U.S. and Israeli-backed aid distribution scheme. In their joint statement, the organizations say that in less than 4 weeks, more than 500 Palestinians have been killed and nearly 4,000 injured while trying to access or distribute food.
These sites are some of the only opportunities to receive food in Gaza due to the Israeli-made famine that is being caused by the Israeli blockade of food, baby formula, and other supplies into Gaza. Out of the almost 1,400 civilians seeking aid that the Israeli military has murdered, almost 1,000 of these murders occurred near sites that the GHF has set up. Upon actual arrival at these sites, starving Palestinians are crowded into narrow corridors with boxes of food just outside the closed gates of those corridors. As the gates break down due to overly cramped conditions and the need for food, the crowds of starving Palestinians are forced to surge forward and crawl on the ground to receive this food. This has resulted in stampedes that have killed crowds of people. Beyond this, the Israeli military shoots into these crowds of starving civilians and kills them as well. Here is noted political scientist Norm Finkelstein describing these sites.
How they distribute the food, you know how they distribute it? They throw it on the floor. And then people are supposed to run for it. To reduce them to rats. And that's what they do to the people of Gaza. Reducing them to scurrying rats. And then as they go for the food, the Israelis, because they're scared, they're afraid, they start shooting at the people, killing them as they scramble and scurry for the food.
Clearly, this behavior indicates that the GHF has no actual interest in trying to provide any sort of meaningful aid. This is political scheming in that Israel and the US want to use the GHF as an example of aid that is being given to Palestinians in a twisted attempt to distract from the evidence that Israel is committing genocide and orchestrating a famine in Gaza. The GHF aids and abets these crimes, with the so-called aid sites only adding to the number of deaths and the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza. There are so many better organizations that actually help Palestinians. Here's a quick list. UNRWA, an organization that supports Palestinian refugees with relief aid and humanitarian services. They serve around 6 million Palestinian refugees, and their staff of over 30,000 people is comprised largely of these individuals. They provide education, relief and social services, microfinance, health services, and many other vital programs. They have provided almost 11 million annual patient visits at their clinics, provided care for almost 35,000 pregnant patients, and provided direct emergency aid and cash assistance to over 2.6 million Palestinian refugees. PCRF is an NGO that focuses on free medical care to thousands of injured and sick children in facilities in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, though they serve the Levant broadly. For many of these infants and youths, the PCRF is one of the only ways they can get medical care. They rely on volunteers for medical work and donations and have helped thousands of children. Heal Palestine is a nonprofit that focuses on providing urgent relief and long-term support to Palestinian children and families. They have provided over 1 million hot meals to displaced families, provided over 1.4 million people with food and water and emergency aid, and have provided over 700,000 people with life-saving care from their field hospitals. They also operate kitchens and provide baby formula to infants in Gaza and provide shelter to displaced families. There are many challenges with supporting the Palestinian cause, and sometimes it can seem insurmountable, but there are so many organizations and people doing great work. I encourage you to think about the most impactful ways you can contribute and see how you can get involved with that great work.